Are you playing latari? Do you need someone to throw down against Baron Zack, Lord Vorenthul, Kethra Alak? Well, good news for you, the Prince Faolan expansion has just come out for the latari faction. Alright, before me we have the Prince Faolan expansion, nice sturdy box. Let's cut off this plastic and see what it's going to hold inside for us. Alright, on the back it reads, Defend the latari from all foes. Among the living warriors of the latari, none stand higher in esteem than Prince Faolan. He is the embodiment of his people's martial aspects, assured in bearing, unshakable in adversity, and graceful in battle. Phelan is the paramount field commander among the latari, but he is prideful when challenged, always searching out the greatest enemy against whom he can test his personal sword mastery. Let's open this box, assemble the figures, and put the contents all out on the table before us. Yarshi B. Everything before you get in the Prince Faolan expansion. Now let's take a look at the figures themselves. So, Prince Phelan himself is a really great hero model. I mean, Fantasy Flight has been doing work on the recent batch of heroes. They make the original heroes look pretty lackluster, honestly. And although I'm not a huge fan of like skirty things, this guy has like 4 separate plugins for his skirt, and the effect is actually quite good. His blade is awesome, he is so 3D, and I love the big pauldrons he has on him. Really, yeah, I mean, I kind of hate elves just because my opponent always plays them, but I gotta say, this guy's looking real good. And his mount, we saw this with the Baron Zack expansion. This is a unique mount, unique to this hero. I love that he's holding the reins, a very dynamic pose. It just gives you the sense that his mounted figure is made much differently than his regular figure is. And what a cool beast he's on. It just really looks like he's going to chop you forward. Now, one thing I will say is that when this guy squares up to units, it is very annoying. He just smashes whatever unit he's facing right in the head, and it's going to cause some frustration, I'm sure. So just be careful about that. So first things first, let's take a look at the rulebook. And of course there's lots of lore, but the main thing is, are there new rules? And yes, there is. We see a new modifier. It is the enhanced modifier, and big props to Fantasy Flight for making new modifiers. You kind of think they've established them by now, but no, they are coming out with new ones. And the elaboration of this is, of course, maybe we're going to see white dice modifiers or even red dice modifiers. But what the symbol is showing here is a blue dice in the middle of a red circle, which means on a red action, you can use this red modifier to add a blue dice. So the next thing we're going to look at here is the terrain you get with this expansion. And of course, it's double-sided. And the first one is this really cool elevated platform called the Faolan dais. Holds 2 units. It's of course elevated, and it has a skill based on the nature runes. Other allies at range 1 to 3 may choose to either remove a bane or ready an upgrade card. So this is obviously amazing. It's latari elves only, and we're seeing this a couple times now where it's faction specific terrain, and it's really cool because you of course would throw this down and your opponent can't benefit from it. Great to have a Deepwood Archer unit up here, obviously, so that's pretty cool. On the other side, we have this really cool bridge, and I'm actually not really sure how this one works, but it holds 2. Taxing 1, only while occupied by another unit. After a unit exits this terrain, they can perform a speed 1 shift. So the second thing, performing a speed 1 shift when you exit, is amazing, because that kind of reduces the amount of turns it takes to get through this terrain. But the taxing 1 only while occupied by another unit, I guess that means like, one hero faces another hero, because it can only be 2 units maximum, so I don't know how often that's going to happen. Next up, we're going to talk about the deployment card, and I mean, I just gotta say, like, by this point, if you own all the stuff for Runewars, there is a shed load of deployment options and objectives, so really good job to Fantasy Flight Games. But this one is kind of interesting. I'm not sure why you would want to deploy in the forward scout slot. Like, you're probably just going to get absolutely destroyed, but, I mean, maybe there's a unit out there where this would be really cool to do. I don't know, hold them off kind of thing. Next up, we have our objective card, and this is very thematic for the feel of Prince Faolan, which is a prideful warrior who thinks he's the best and kind of wants to challenge other champions of other factions. So, starting with the second player, each player nominates one of his or her units and places an objective token on its unit card, so it's worth 20 points. During play, after a unit with an objective token on its card performs a melee attack, if at least one enemy tray is destroyed and no other allies are engaged with the enemy, the attacking unit's player scores 1 objective token. So that's basically saying you're doing it on your own. You're soloing an enemy unit. If that enemy has an objective token on its card, the attacking unit player scores 1 additional objective token. When an ally with an objective token on its card loses 1 or more trays, each other ally receives a panic token. So basically, if your objective unit fights the other objective unit, there's a lot of points to be had. Furthermore, if your objective unit is losing trays, your army is becoming uninspired because their champion is losing. This is probably one of the coolest thematic objectives out there so far, and huge amounts of points to be had. I mean, if you were running around with Aliana Summer Song and just like ambush predatoring people, you could rack up some serious points, especially because a hero unit only loses 1 tray, so only 20 points or whatever, but the potential to gain the upside is quite huge. Ankar Maru would also be really good with this one, so I like this one a lot. Next, we're going to look at the Prince himself. So coming in at 12 collective damage absorption, which is fairly standard for the newest batch of heroes. He has a melee attack. Add a staple blue dice. After rerolls, you must remove 1. This is like the Drenati Warrior's ability, so maybe he's like an elite Drenati Warrior in a way. But the cool thing is if you have 2 stable runes, then you actually are gaining a dice even after the rerolls. He also has, when you perform a movement, you may treat it as modified by a turn, a sharp turn, or a charge. So that is highly maneuverable. Highly maneuverable. When you would perform a speed 3 move, you may perform 3 speed 1 moves instead. Of course, you can modify them. If you do, cancel your modifier dial. By modifier, I mean as per the passive above. We're going to look at this a lot more in the gameplay section at the end of the video. He also has Precise 1 and Brutal 1. He rolls a white and a blue dice. And it should be noted that with his new blue dice modifier, he can, with 2 stable runes, roll 1 white and 4 blue dice, taking away 1. So that's pretty tremendous. On the other side, we see he's 36 points. So he's by no means the most expensive hero in the game. He also has the Champion of the Start Plane. After setup, each ally at range 1 to 5 who has a champion slot upgrade receives an inspiration token. And why not? Champion slots are usually a bit pricey, so I'm not sure how much mileage you're going to get out of this one, but why not? We're on to the upgrades now. And the first is a artifact upgrade for any hero. It is melee attack, double surge, receive 1 inspiration token. While you are defending, you may spend 1 of your inspiration tokens to remove 1 dice icon of your choice. So this is an interesting idea. I think what it's getting at is a dice icon is the result of 1 of the dice. I doubt that if somebody rolled like 4 hits and you're like, oh, I'm going to remove the hit icon, that it just takes away all the hits. So I would think what they're saying is 1 of the rolled dice results. Double Surge is not hard to get for this guy, or for the latari in that matter. Typically they're rolling shed loads of blue dice, but this guy's rolling up to 4 blue dice and a white. And this is a really amazing defensive ability, especially because it comes into play every time. But it should be noted that Prince Faolan can't actually shield when he's attacking, so maybe he needs this guy. 6 points though, it's a squeak on the expensive side. Next we're looking at the unit upgrades for Prince Faolan. So melee or ranged attack, you can replace a white die with you can replace a die with a white die. And this is normal for this batch of heroes where they're replacing dice, not adding dice. During your activation, you can treat the first move as modified by turn, sharp turn, or charge. If you do, you cannot disengage during this activation. So for 17 points, I don't know if I'd say that that's totally amazing. The Leonks might get a good amount of mileage out of this card just for increasing their maneuverability and damage, but the other latari units I'm not so sure about. The next upgrade is unique to Prince Faolan, and it's a skill. Choose an ally at range 1 to 3. That unit may perform a reform or a speed 1 shift. It can treat this shift as modified by a turn, and this definitely has some potential for giving your units the combat edge as far as disengaging and re-engaging, and we're going to talk about this more in the gameplay session at the end of the video. Next upgrade is also unique to Prince Faolan, and it is for 5 points, Legendary Prowess. Melee attack. If the defending unit is not engaged with other units, you may replace 1 dice with a white or a red dice. While you are defending, enemies do not add an extra die for flanking you. This is a very cool upgrade. Firstly, because I think we've all thought about running the upgrade that means getting flanked doesn't add extra dice, but it's just in such a valuable slot that we never actually do it. So the fact that this has it added on is quite nice. Secondly, the actual effect itself is quite strong, because if Prince Faolan can modify in a blue dice, then what he's doing with this upgrade is really modifying in a white or a red dice. And if he's rolling 4 bonus blue dice because of stable runes, all the better still. So this is a very strong upgrade. The last upgrade is also a Prince Faolan unique, and it is skill. Choose an ally at range 1 to 5. If you have at least 1 inspiration token, that unit receives an inspiration token. You also gain steadfast to fear. Now, this is a interesting idea, but I just don't think that this is the role Prince Faolan should be using, or should be used as. You know, the Rallying Starling is the person who can dish out and remove Banes, so I think I just don't think this is what he's meant for. Alrighty, it's dial time. So first thing we're going to talk about are the red actions and modifiers. So attacking at melee 3 is very cool. It is the fastest melee attack in the game, pretty well. I think so. There might be a 2 out there, but still 3 is faster than most of the melee attacks. And then of course you can modify it with the add a blue dice attack. But one thing that sucks about attacking at melee 3, if you can only attack at initiative 3, then if somebody's going to charge you, you can't retaliate with an attack. Think about Artis, for example, who is so prone to getting charged at speed 3 or speed 4 that he actually can't respond if he doesn't have the initiative in the round. So the fact that Prince Faolan can also attack at 8 is so important, and it's the kind of flexibility that you will be grateful for in a pinch. Alright, real quickly, he can of course do a white rally modifier and a skill modifier. And for his green abilities, he has the Rally 2. So he actually, I think, is the only person who can rally. I'm not really sure why, unless you're like at a pep rally or a cheerleader or something. But he can do a Shift 1 at 5, a Shift 2 at 7, and he can do a Reform green modifier. So he can do like a Shift 2 reform or a Shift 1 reform, which is fairly flexible, and of course these can be modified with turns or charges or whatever, so it's a pretty flexible kit. Lastly, we're going to talk about the blue modifiers, which are pretty quick. He can move 1 at initiative 2, which I believe is the fastest in the game with the other elf leaders. He can move 2 at initiative 4 and 3 at initiative 6, all while modifying with a turn charge that is not decreased by the turn, which is really valuable. And he can, of course, throw his shield up during any of these blue movements. Now, we are going to talk about his move 3 at initiative 6 in the gameplay session right after this. So there you have it. That's what's in the box for the Prince Faolan expansion, and my thoughts on the upgrades, etc. Now we're going to go into a gameplay section where I'm going to put our thoughts into practice and see if we're wowed even more. Before me I have Prince Faolan, which has a couple nifty tricks up his sleeve. He could be the most maneuverable unit we have in the game. I'm trying to think if there's one more maneuverable, and I'm not sure. And that's because of his really, really cool passive ability, which is when you perform a march, you can treat it as modified by sharp turn, soft turn, or charge. When you perform a speed 3 march, you may perform 3 speed 1 marches instead. If you do, cancel your modifier dial. So this is pretty exceptional stuff. I mean, you don't really pick it up on first read, at least I didn't. So he can do simply this, moving forward 3. You could of course also modify it by a sharp as well. So his maneuverability just straight off the bat is amazing. And these can become charges, not the turns, but the straight could become a charge. He can also, of course, dial in charges. But what's really cool is his 3 multiples, which really allow him to take on, just amazing. So he could go ahead and dial in a move 3 armor at initiative 6. And to note is that, you know, a lot of heroes have a move 4, especially if they're on horseback. So moving 3 at initiative 6 isn't like outrageously maneuverable on its own, but with the combination of this, so, you know, he could be like, all right, I'm going to move forward 1, and then actually, you know what, I need to get out of this, around that piece of terrain there, and then we'll finish it off with a sharp turn like so. And so, like, the fact that you can do that with just one movement is pretty interesting. You know, you can of course do 2-1 shorts and then really get that line up next turn for your charge, which is just fantastic. So anyway, I think that's a really cool ability. I'll just talk about his ability here, the Etherian of Alatar. So it's a skill. You can choose an ally at range 1 to 3, and they can perform a reform or a speed 1 shift or whatever. So it's a pretty cool ability because it doesn't say an unengaged ally. So for example, if Phelan had this equipped and he's attacking these reanimates and his Ventala are engaged with these Death Knights, well, at initiative 3 he can do an attack, and he's got a stable rune, so he rolls what is that? Yeah, 3 dice, he gets rid of 1. Fine. Wow, that's actually a pretty stellar roll. So that's 2, 4, 6 dead, so he kills a fair amount there. But then he also causes his Ventala here to actually do a shift, which allows them to break off from these Death Knights at initiative 3. And so they would simply just shift back. They can even modify that shift as if it was modified. So maybe they would do a really, you know, a sharp pivot off to the side or something, really to mess with the Death Knights like so. But the point is, now they're disengaged at initiative 3, and the Death Knight's melee attack would not hit them, and then maybe they could even charge back in for an extra attack. This doesn't have to be Ventala. This could be any unit. This could be the Drenati warriors who are fighting neck and neck with Prince Faolan, and being able to disengage, charge, disengage to dodge their melee attack, charge in afterwards is extremely powerful. And what's more powerful is the possibility of doing that. It's all mind games in this Runewars miniatures game. And if your opponent thinks you're going to do that and you don't do it, then he's going to be screwed, because he'll have tried to charge you to anticipate it and you're not doing it. Do it and then don't. I mean, really mess with him. So that's an amazing upgrade that I am very scared my opponent is going to be playing all the time, and those are the kind of upgrades that make my brain melt. So that's it. That's a couple of cool tricks that Prince Faolan has. Definitely, once you see them out on the battlefield, I think it's going to sink in just how how powerful this fella is. So thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. New videos come out every Friday or Saturday. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like or even subscribing to the channel, or you can leave me a comment in the section below. Until next video, I'll see you then. Thanks.